What's going on, Indie Mogul? Today we're talking about Matteboxes. What do you need to know about them? And to walk through this, we have the brand new PolarPro Basecamp Mattebox, which is the newest and lightest weight Mattebox to hit the market. It's also got a built-in ND and filter slot for all of you guys that want to start stepping up your game. In addition to that, we are also going to be talking about the RE-LNB 4x5 Mattebox, which is really the traditional standard in the studio industry. So we're going to talk about what does this Mattebox offer, what are the differences between the two, and what are 4 ways that cinematographers use Matteboxes to step up their game. Today I got my buddy Shawn Corrigan. He's an amazing cinematographer. He's done a really wide range of work in terms of work for Nickelodeon, work for Nikon, work for Jeep. So, how you doing, dude?
Good, good. This is the everyday gold standard Mattboxes, the RE-LNB 4x5.
Right here we've got the PolarPro Mattbox. What is this top thing that I'm looking at here?
Top thing is a flag.
What does it do?
It's gonna look cool.
Actually important. We will get back to that in just a little bit.
We're trying to get flares out of here, and we're covering the lens for protection when we need it.
But I heard in some preset pack, in some YouTuber's video, that lens flares are beautiful and I want to have them in my shots all the time, no matter what. Why do you want to block lens flares from actually happening here?
Because we want to block the lens flares that we don't want and then create the lens flares we want.
Most of the time, if you're shooting with a regular DSLR lens and you get sunlight lens flares hitting you, it's just going to wash out the image.
Totally. We have our Mattbox on, we have our flag on, we have our ND in it, and then we have a flashlight right here making that lens flare we want, and we're putting it where we want in the frame because we want to control the narrative.
So number one reason for a Mattbox is to actually block unwanted flares and unwanted light sources from hitting the lens directly.
Yeah.
Cool. What's number 2?
Filtration. The most common way you're gonna see filtration is in neutral density filters. They let you change the amount of light coming to the lens so you can choose your aperture, choose your ISO, and then on the other side we have just clear glass, which in my line of work, protection. You know, we're doing special effects shots, we got dust, we got slime, we got water. We don't want to get that in the front element of our lens because we could have a really expensive lens, so we're going to go with clear glass.
Now for the PolarPro, this one might look like a 1-stage system, but it's actually a 2-stage system because it's got the variable ND built in. They're actually going to be coming out with halation filters, square filters that will drop in, and different kinds of circle filters that you can actually have locked into your Mattbox. This one here is about $4,000 to $5,000. This one here is about $400 to $700, depending on what you need. What separates Mattbox ND from screw-on NDs?
I've used countless amounts of variable ND, and what I used to do is have one on every single lens we used in the kit. So travel, you're only using 3 lenses a lot, so we just had the same variable ND on all 3 lenses, so you could just grab them out of your bag and get your shots. Because it's a variable ND, which essentially is 2 pieces of glass polarized against each other, if you just want a polarized sky, but don't need the ND, you pull the stage out, and now you just have a circular polarizer.
Gotcha. So by itself, it's a polarizer. You can remove the second part. Sounds good. All right, so if number 1 is to have a French flag to block unwanted glare, number 2 is to add in ND or variable ND. What's number 3? Number
3 would be our halation, and halation, it comes in a variety of different methods. A lot of people like black pro mist, a lot of people like glimmer glass, and then there's, you know, the graduated filters for skyline, stuff like this. The one thing I will say, if you're running glimmer glass or any kind of halation, do not do it on green screen, because what it does is it messes up the edge from you to the green screen, and then that halation blurs into it. Some people do it and you're like, no! And then we're using different strengths depending upon our focal length. As you zoom in, you're seeing a little bit less, so you might need more or less of that to get your look.
In the same way that people choose lenses for a certain characteristic, filtration will add a huge, entirely new look to your actual image.
Totally. I mean, some people, their whole look is built in their filtration.
4, what are we looking at in terms of why we need a Mattbox?
Lens safety. We want to shoot this palm tree, we're going to point at the sun or whatever, and we're waiting for something, and we don't want crap to fall in here while we wait. Close it, because we don't want to change the angle of the camera, we're just waiting. We're closing our lens with it, we have a lens cover, we're doing a move, it's on our sticks, lens is closed, go on launch. I know we love shooting lens flares, especially they're so contemporary right now. I'm always shooting lens flares. If you're not shooting a lens flare and then the sun is just baking through your lens, it's just toasting your gear. Some of the lenses are made of plastic.
Yeah.
And you know, they get super hot inside, the light's coming through, you can melt. Nothing funny about safety, Ted.
Okay, cool. Again, those right there are really 4 main reasons for why we need a Mattbox. But you got a bonus 1, bonus 2 that I think we should talk about.
Let's say your client wants a shot, right?
Yes.
And they want a handheld shot, but you're not built for handheld. Literally, I'm just gonna get my hand in here, hold this, point at you, and that way.
It gives you another handle.
Totally. I was not even ready for this. Now we're doing it. I do a lot of work that's intimate. The next thing we're seeing is eyeline control. And we're gonna see this a lot when we're shooting a 2-person conversation with a 1-camera shoot.
Yeah.
And what we're gonna do is, I'm gonna put a piece of tape here, So that way, you know where to look for where I'm framing the other person in the conversation.
Gotcha.
So that when we come around, we flip it over, and then it looks like we're looking at each other. And you're telling the actor to look exactly where you want them to look. Hey, look at the yellow tape.
And then you also do like a special eye line. What's that?
Oh yeah, so it's my special eye line, and I use it when I'm shooting with kids. Sometimes they're intimidated by cameras. So what I do is I get a figurine that they're familiar with. In this case, it's SpongeBob.
Nice.
Look, see, you're smiling already.
I am smiling already.
You can't not look at SpongeBob blowing you a kiss and not smile back. But at the end of the day, it is diffusing your talent and making them feel as comfortable in front of the camera as possible. You don't be like, hey, look at Shawn. They're like, who are you? You're like, look at SpongeBob. And they're like, oh, yeah, hey, I get SpongeBob. I know who he is. What the Mattebox is you're stacking things in your favor.
And for our last and final reason for why we need a Mattebox, what is it?
It makes you look that much more professional. And when you're coming up, that could be the sign of having respect or not having respect some places. And you need to look the part.
Yeah.
Even if you're feeling uncomfortable, you need to look the part. It's why I bought my first Mattebox, and I'm not embarrassed to say
I know a lot of cinematographers and filmmakers that bought their first Mattebox just so they could be taken seriously.
Yeah.
So sometimes you just gotta flex a little bit, and this will let you do that. So now that we know why we need to use the Mattebox, let's start breaking through what are the different configurations for how we can use the Mattebox.
Okay.
Right? So what are the different types of top flags we can have?
You're pretty much going to see a straight one like this, or where they spread apart. They're exclusively almost always going to be carbon fiber.
What's the second thing that can be reconfigured on this?
A lot of Mattboxes are going to be both clip-on and rail mounted. Clip-on, where the Mattbox clips directly to the lens. We're using step-up rings, and step-up rings, they're going to get us from whatever the front size of the lens is to our standardized size here.
Gotcha.
Cinema lenses, they're almost all exclusively 112 millimeters. If you don't have the ability to clip right on the end of your lens, we can always go to rods. This is 15 millimeter rail adapter, and it's gonna keep it super lightweight.
Here you're actually attaching it not onto the lens itself, but you're attaching it onto the actual camera rig.
So this is what we're gonna call a swing away Mattbox. You simply just pull the pin up, and it swings out of the way. You just bring it back, pull your pin up, now you're back in business.
So no matter how many stages we have, generally speaking, what is the filter size that we can drop in here?
We're looking at 4x5 filters, and I think the great thing is that when you make the jump to a Mattbox, your filters you buy now are gonna serve you your whole career.
Now, one of the cool things about the PolarPro Basecamp Mattebox, though, is that the NDs are actually made by PolarPro to be as lightweight as possible. If you want to start using high-quality filters in a lighter weight system, like the most lightweight system out there, you're going to need something more like the Basecamp Mattebox from PolarPro. So there you have it, guys. There's your episode on Mattboxes and 4 different ways that cinematographers use them to spice up their footage. Now, if you're interested in picking up the new PolarPro Basecamp Mattebox, they've actually got special this week pricing, so we'll put a link down below for that as well. Likewise, if you want to learn more about this episode, you can actually see our podcast with Shawn Corrigan, where we actually talk about his journey into filmmaking. Finally, if you scroll down a little bit, so many plugs here. We've also got new Indie Mogul merch if you're interested in picking that up as well. Big shout out to Shawn for actually coming out and joining us onto the show. If you want to follow him and learn more about filmmaking photography, you can go to Shawn_Corrigan on Instagram. But that is it for me, guys. I'm Ted. This is Indie Mogul. Thanks so much for watching. I said Shin.
Shin!
No,
Shin!
sorry.
Shin
Sometimes
Ramen.
Again, this is Shawn Corrigan. You can find him. Where can they find you?
You can find me right here. It's so weird. And there you have it, guys. That's your episode of Mattboxes. Here we are with Ted, the
on the
main
same
man,
brain.
Sim. And